Welcome back to Student Tutorials. In this video, we are going to be looking at how you can interface with the Dallas thermometer using the Arduino IDE. So here is a picture of the circuit I've been using. Again, photos taken by Archie. Thank you. You'll see here on the right-hand side of the top right image, that's where I have my Dallas thermometer set up. The actual way it looks doesn't matter particularly much. You will have covered this in the breadboarding videos, but what does matter is where that yellow wire is connected. That middle yellow wire going from the bottom right up onto the Arduino, as you can see in the top image here, is connected to the digital pin 2. So you need to remember that number because we're going to use that in our code to define where we're actually going to be reading values from. Anyway, now let's get to actually coding. First things first, unlike PT1000 we did in the last video, we're going to have to actually use some external libraries to do this. So as we learned, we're going to do #include, and then, I didn't mean to do that, and then angled brackets, and we're going to type in the name of the library, which is Dallas temperature. Great. But if you recall, the Dallas temperature actually had a dependency, and that dependency is one wire. So we're going to have to include the one wire library as well. For that, just do one wire.h like that. Great. Now you may ask, why does the Dallas temperature need the one wire library? That's simply because the Dallas is actually from the one wire family of sensors. And all that means is that its data gets sent down one wire. That yellow wire you saw is the one wire. It doesn't need multiple wires to do that, which is pretty clever. Anyway, we're going to do another thing. This time we're going to do #define. Now, this is basically just defining a variable, and I won't go over exactly the difference because it's out of the scope of this video, but just focus on the fact I'm defining a variable here. So I'm going to define this variable one wire bus, and I'm going to set that equal to 2. Why am I setting equal to 2? Well, that's the bus that the one wire is connected to, one wire 2. We're going to have to use that for the rest of it. Now, the next couple lines of code might look a little weird, and that's okay. You don't need to properly understand them, just need to know to include them in your code. Okay, first, I'm going to write this line of code, and then I'm going to explain it. So one wire, one wire bus. Slightly old looking code, one wire repeated many times. Now, what does this mean? So we have the library in our Arduino IDE, one wire, and that gives us a bunch of functions and objects and stuff that we can play with. And so all I'm saying here is, okay, I want to access the one wire library. Cool. And I want to set the value of one wire to one wire bus, which is 2. So all I'm doing is giving the library that's installed information about where my one wire device is actually connected to. Okay, oops, I need to do that. Next, the next line might also look a bit weird. Dallas temperature, and we need to do say sensors and one wire. Again, what does that mean? This is a very similar line to the line before. We're saying, okay, we want to access the Dallas temperature library, and we want to set, well, we're not setting anything this time, we're giving the library something. We want to give sensors one wire. So all we're doing is we're basically helping those two libraries communicate. We're just giving the Dallas temperature library access to the one wire library so they can work together. And we need to do this, otherwise this code will not work. Great, okay. That's the weird code out of the way. The rest of the code is fairly straightforward. As always, as I always say, you want to do serial.begin. You want to actually start our serial monitor up so we can use it at 9,600 baud. And we also want to do sensors.begin. And all we're saying here is I'm accessing the sensors object, which is the Dallas thermometer in this case, and we want to begin it. We want to actually turn the device on effectively. We want to be able to use it. And that's everything we have to say for setup. Okay, now, void loop. Literally 3 lines of code here to read your temperature. First, we need to say sensors dot request temperature. Temperatures. You need to be careful with the syntax here. This line is saying again, I want my sensors object to give me a temperature. So I'm just going to request a temperature from the sensors object. And we need to do this before we actually assign it to a variable. Otherwise, the sensor won't know what we're doing. Okay. Then we're going to define a float called temp_c, temperature in Celsius. And we're going to set it equal to get temp c by index 0. So we're just, or sensors.get that. Sensors.get temp c by index 0. All we're saying is, again, we want to set the value of our temperature c float to the temperature in Celsius, which is what the c means, by index 0. By index 0 is just saying we want to access the memory location 0. So on the thermometer, there's going to be lots of different memory locations, and the temperature is stored in the one 0. So that's the one we want. Finally, we want to see what temperature we've actually just recorded. So we're going to do serial.print line, like we did last time, and we're going to print out temp c, like that. And hopefully, this code is right. It should work. Great, no errors. Let's access the serial monitor. And look, it's giving us 21.31. That seems pretty reasonable to me. That's about room temperature. One more thing to note, though, which we didn't add, is that, like in the last video, we should add a bit of a delay, just for stability, because the thermometer is going to read so fast. So let's just compile that again. It'll also make it a bit easier to read. And you'll see it's still sitting and it's changed slightly. If I was to go and I was to hold the thermometer, so I'm just putting my hand over it right now, you'll see that it goes up pretty quickly. So it's working, which is great. Anyway, that's all for this video. In the next video, we're going to be looking at how you can interface with the T6 thermometer, which is slightly more difficult, but not much more difficult than the Dallas. And then from there, we'll be actually recording data from them and looking at how you can do that much easier than trying to copy from the serial monitor. Thanks for watching.